Here.
You have a quorum present.
Next item.
B, Chair's remarks.
I have none.
C, approval of the September 13th, 2023 meeting minutes.
Move
Yeah.
for approval.
It's been moved by
Support.
Commissioner Dobb and supported by Commissioner Dobb and supported by Commissioner Coleman. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes have it. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Can you click this on your tablet? Thank you. Motion carried. D, unfinished business. There is none listed. Moving to item 1 under new business, forwarding the final copy of the corrective action plan and Auditor General's assessment for the Wayne County Department of Information Technology Controls Over Computer Assets Performance Audit Report.
I'd like to welcome our Auditor General, Ms. Cora, her staff, and her guest. And could you please proceed, Ms. Cora?
Marcy Coro, Auditor General. Staff can introduce themselves.
Will Hamner, Audit Manager.
Shaquila Warren, Audit Supervisory Auditor.
Erica Jones, Principal Senior Auditor.
And if we could have guests from the Department of Information Technology introduce themselves.
Hector Roman, Director, Information Technology.
Ryan Hayes, Division Director of Computing and Infrastructure.
Okay, and I'd like to also welcome Commissioner Kniesing. Thank you.
What you have before you today, this is the final copy of the corrective action plan and the Auditor General's assessment for the Department of Information Technology, the Controls Over Computer Asset Performance Report. And I'm going to turn it over to the audit team and they'll go through, we're only going to go through those that were in process, but we'll give a little background.
Yes, good morning. Just as some background to the CAP report that you have before you. The Department of Information Technology is required to maintain accountability over all computer assets that are purchased and held by the county. In fiscal year 2018, DOIT purchased the Avante Service Management Platform to better manage incoming service desk tickets and to help improve the department's computer asset management capabilities, change management functionality, and reporting abilities. As noted in the county's budget appropriations, DOIT is appropriated approximately $1.2 million of funding each year to replace older computers through the Tech Refresh Program. Under this program, standard desktop computers are to be replaced every 5 years and standard laptop computers are to be replaced every 3 years. And this is in order to comply with the IT's industry standards. During this engagement, DOT also received approximately $1.1 million of CARES Act grant funds during fiscal year 2020 to purchase laptop computers for county employees. So for this engagement, we had one objective, and that objective was to assess DOIT's controls over the accountability over their inventory, the authorized assignment and disposal of computer assets. From that objective, we identified 6 areas which we deemed the control environment could be enhanced. The one area was to enhance policies for DOIT operational procedures. The second area was to establish a written agreement with the disposal vendor. The third area was to improve the recording of hard drive sanitization. The fourth area was to conduct periodic inventory checks with the county departments and elected officials. The fifth area was to strengthen controls over the management of computer inventory. And the sixth area was to enhance documentation over the receiving and distribution process. As Marcy indicated, from that report, we identified 20 recommendations, and we're proud to and applaud DOIT for implementing 15 of those 20 recommendations. The remaining 5 are in process. And with that, Tequila and Erica go over the reply.
Okay. First recommendation 2D on page 4 of the report. Consider conducting periodic on-site observations of the vendor's destruction process. We confirmed that Do It Management did not conduct any on-site observations of the vendor's destruction process as of the date of this report. However, Do It Management stated they will consider conducting periodic on-site observation of the disposal vendor's destruction process going forward. If the plan action is implemented as described, the action appears to sufficiently address the recommendation. However, a follow-up review may be necessary. Recommendation 4A, to comply with MMB policy number 12,000 and strengthen controls over computer assets that cost less than $5,000. We recommended that Do It Management develop a countywide inventory policy to include, but not limited to, require county business units to perform a physical inventory count of computer assets at least annually and forward a written report to Do It for review and reconciliation to their records. We determined that the computer equipment lifecycle management procedures requires for Do It to conduct an annual verification of computer assets that have been distributed to county business units and to resolve and investigate any discrepancies that are identified during the verification process. In addition, Do It Management indicated they are still implementing the annual physical inventory process with other departments and elected offices within the county. If the planned action is implemented as described, the action appears to sufficiently address the recommendation. However, a follow-up may be necessary to verify the described action has occurred.
To move forward, our recommendation 4B was that during the distribution process, ensure that every county employee assigned to a computer asset provides a handwritten signature and date on an attestation form adhering to their accountability over the assigned asset and financial responsibility for its loss. We determined that the product intake and deployment policy requires for county employees to provide a handwritten signature and date on a work order request form, also known as a deployment form, at the time of deployment. Per discussion with management, DOT is in the process of revising its policy to state that county employees could be held financially responsible for the loss of a computer asset due to the employee's negligence or reckless mishandling of the asset. If the plan action is implemented as described, the action appears to sufficiently address the recommendation.
Can I just add on to
Sure.
this one? This is one where I wanted to show to the committee how the Auditor General's office works with the department. Originally, when we looked at this recommendation, we had it as partially implemented, but we were able to sit down with management from the Department of Information Technology and come up with an understanding of how we could add some value to this recommendation, the county's process, by adding the could. Originally, there was no attestation on the forms when you receive your computer, but by adding could, at least there could be chances when somebody should be held responsible for the laptop. It was part of their negligence, but I think we worked together and we got through to make it in process.
Yeah, and that's a Rodney King moment. Thank you. Please proceed.
Sure, yeah, and we are actually working with PHR and Corporation Counsel on updating the policies and also the equipment release form. And that language, it maybe could or maybe will. So
Right.
that's still being worked on, but definitely, unfortunately, we haven't had many issues where employees are dropping a laptop one week, the next week they step on it and the third week they spill coffee on it. Fortunately, we haven't had that. But, being proactive and having that in a form that they sign that they could be or will be financially responsible, hopefully that makes them take better care of county equipment.
Thank you.
Yes. And our
I'm
recommendation.
sorry, Commissioner Dobb has a question or comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I know you said you're working with Corporation Counsel, but what if the employee refuses to sign that form?
That's a very good question, and that's scenarios we're working through. It could be that it's required to have employment with the county, that you have a device issued to you. And if they don't want to sign, that's something that we are talking internally about, the different scenarios that could occur.
Would the key there be like cut in pay or cut in vacation time or something like that?
Could be, yes, that's the issue we're working through.
Okay, I just want to make sure that, you do have everything.
Ms. Cora had.
So we looked at, there could be instances where something could happen to the laptop, say even in your office, your laptop gets stolen and should you be responsible for that? But negligence, and that's where we think there should be some accountability.
Thank you.
Please proceed. Thank you.
Our recommendation for E was to perform a monthly review of the Avanti system to identify computer assets that have not reported to the system for more than 2 weeks and to ascertain the asset's location and custodian. We found that DLT management stated that they will consider conducting a quarterly scan of the Avanti system to identify computer assets that have not logged into Avanti for an extended period. And we also found that if the plan action is implemented as described, the action appears to sufficiently address the recommendation. Lastly, our recommendation 6A was to mitigate risks related to the receiving, recording, and distribution of computer purchases. We specifically recommended that DLT management establish policies and procedures to require a sign off to be completed by DLT personnel on receiving documents for each shipment to verify the quantity received and to note any exceptions. We noted that DLT management is currently revising the product intake and deployment procedure to address the requirement to have DLT personnel sign and date the packing slips during their shipment verification process. We also found that if this plan action is implemented as described, the action appears to sufficiently address the recommendation.
That concludes our presentation.
Thank you. Commissioner Kleen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to go back to the destruction of the hard drives. Now, in this committee, like with the sheriff's office in the audits, evidence that they have from court cases that have already been settled, they'll destroy drugs, they'll destroy guns after cases are settled. The sheriff goes over there and watches the process to make sure. Is that kind of, there's got to be a lot of good stuff on these hard drives that we wouldn't want. So is that kind of standard operating procedure? I imagine most companies outsource this. The destruction, people don't have this kind of stuff in-house. So is this how people do things then? They take over their case of hard drives and keep the chain through, watch it be destroyed, and we're like, cool, no county stuff is gonna surface when they send this overseas, right? Or whatever, when they strip down computers and hard drives, there's a lot that goes on. So what do you think?
Yes, things have changed quite a bit too, in recent years with hard drives. Before, if you took a hard drive out of a computer and threw it in the trash can, I could come grab it and plug it into my computer and get your data off of it. Now we implemented, it's called BitLocker. So there's actually hard drive encryption on every hard drive that's out there. So if I pull your hard drive out and plug it in, it's going to say, what's your 25 character decryption key?
And the county puts that in there, or does that come with hard drives, period?
We implemented that as part of a solution from Microsoft.
Okay. So what's your sense of the necessity of going over and watching it actually get chopped up?
The destruction of the hard drives, they do get shredded. Each hard drive, they record the serial number of it. So we get a report at the end. We shredded 30 hard drives. These are all the serial numbers. They match what we took from your location. We do have plans to, I believe we're going to try to do it quarterly at this point, is go watch a destruction take
That
place.
seems like a good idea to me, because I don't believe, Madam Auditor General, that does the sheriff observe every time they destroy guns or drugs? Or do they kind of do that a little bit like more of a spot check?
The sheriff's office reaches out to our office to assist with their destruction of their controlled substances no longer needed for adjudication purposes, along with their guns. And then we provide the secondhand observation of that destruction.
Okay,
And then
so you see them all,
Yes.
okay.
then-
Quarterly, then you think?
That's what we're shooting for right now, yes.
Yeah.
And typically with the sheriff destructions, they're under CJIS requirements, so they would pull their hard drives out and put them in a box off to the side. We
Yeah.
come get all their computers and dispose of the computers, but they do their hard drives.
I think it
separately.
would be good to see it and match the serial numbers. Because you get a paper report and these are the serial numbers came in, these are the ones we destroyed. Oh, yeah?
Okay.
Okay,
uh,
thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Dobb has a question or comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Where, what city is the vendor facility located? That they do the destruction? Is it like close by, far away?
I apologize. I don't know the answer to that.
But it is within probably a half-hour drive, so it's not out of state. They're
Okay,
local.
all right. Wasn't sure if that was gonna be, like a huge road trip for us,
Oh.
Employees to take for.
Vendor in Hawaii.
Well, I didn't know if it was like on
I will schedule
Grand
it for
Rapids
February.
or something, Traverse City, something like that. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? Ms. Cora?
If I could just add, as Will indicated earlier, that, the original report had 20 recommendations, 15 were implemented, 5 are in process. So I think the department should be commended for the work they've done.
Could we commend the department for doing that? Thank you very much.
Recommended.
Thank you.
Okay.
Does that mean we're all rowing in the same direction?
Rodney King moment. Yes, rowing.
Rowing,
Thank you.
rowing in the same direction.
Yes, we are. Anything further? Okay, can I get a motion to receive and file?
Make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Can I get a second? I have a motion from Commissioner Clean, a second from Commissioner Dobb. All those in favor, say aye.
And
Oh. I don't tap mine. And all those opposed? The ayes have it. Next item, Madam Clerk.
F, such other matters as may be properly submitted before the committee.
There are none that I know of. Next item.
G, public comments.
Is there anybody from the public that would like to comment? Anybody from the public that would like to comment for the second time? Felicia, do you have anything to say? I'm just kidding. Anybody from the public like to comment? Okay, next item, Madam Clerk.
Adjournment.
Can I get a motion? Can I get support?